Tucker Carlson. I know everyone just had a reaction. I know everyone watching the show just had some kind of reaction when I said that name. Tucker Carlson, Fox News anchor, Fox News, fair and balanced reporting. Tucker Carlson, who I believe is like a libertarian, a proud libertarian, came on the news last week and said, let me just show you what he said.
So we've got new hairstyles and maternity flight suits. Pregnant women are going to fight our wars. It's a mockery of the U.S. military. While China's military becomes more masculine as it's assembled the world's largest navy, our military needs to become, as Joe Biden says, more feminine, whatever feminine means anymore, since men and women no longer exist. The bottom line is it's out of control, and the Pentagon's going along with this. Again, this is a mockery of the U.S. military and its core mission, which is winning wars.
So Tucker Carlson goes on to say that women in the military are getting all this focus with body armor that fits women, with flight suits that fit women, with hairstyles being corrected. He doesn't go into any details on the reasons why these things are important, who asked for these things in the first place, anything about whether or not it affects lethality in the military, actually, whether it does or doesn't, or adds anything at all whatsoever, including retention and all this stuff. Now, these comments, especially saying that this is a mockery of the military, drew a lot of attention, okay? A lot of attention from the Pentagon, from the White House, from the news outlets, and a lot of people tuned in to say that this is dumb, basically, including the Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael Grinston, who said, women lead our most lethal units with character. They will dominate any future battlefield we're called to fight on. Tucker Carlson's words are divisive, don't reflect our values. We have the most professional, educated, agile, and strongest NCO corps in the world. General Paul Funk chimed in on Twitter to piggyback off of him and said, I agree, Pat. Thousands of women serve honorably every day around the globe. They are beacons of freedom, and they prove Tucker Carlson wrong, even wrong through determination and dedication. We are fortunate they serve with us. And so on and so on. And a lot of people come in there. And Tucker Carlson had that picture of the female with the flight suit on there, kind of standing, just showing off the maternity flight suit. Obviously, what he said was really dumb and totally meaningless and had no real logic or behind it at all whatsoever. So when everybody comes out there to condemn this and, you know, say how dumb Tucker Carlson is, Tucker Carlson, by the way, if this is still true, it was true recently, the most viewed news anchor on TV. Now, I would not describe him as a journalist. It's entertainment news. Fox News is like entertainment news, and so is CNN. It's not real journalism. It's not the whole story. It's not investigative. It's just their opinions on things to stoke anger and fear and excitement and all this stuff. Now, it's interesting because if I just think back to like early Iraq war when IEDs were killing troops on an extremely regular basis, and you know every day people getting blown up by IEDs and not surviving because the Humvees had wooden doors, no armor, no V-shaped holes, nothing like that. And the news was, we've got to get the troops the gear they need. We have got to get troops gear that's going to save their lives. This is the military getting troops gear that's going to save their lives. And then the news comes on and says that it's a mockery of the military. Now, I actually don't think it's hyperbole to say that this was an insult to women in the military, that this was, I don't know if you want to say misogynistic. It's definitely ignorant to say. The whole thing was really dumb. The whole thing was really, really dumb. I disagree with everything he said, and it was just totally foolish. I don't think that it is a negative thing at all whatsoever to improve this gear and make it better fitting. The fact that women need maternity flight suits. Let's just think about this for a second. The fact that women need maternity flight suits means they're still coming to freaking work pregnant. Think about that. Women are pregnant and they want to fly as long as they can. They want to come in and do their job as long as they can. And the idea that there's going to be an effort put in to enable them to do that. So what's the alternative? What's the alternative? That they don't get gear for women who are pregnant and then they just have them, go work in a low battle rhythm job doing, like working at like a desk job. It just goes to further the idea that, women in the military are not pulling their weight or whatever, but they're out there trying to do it. So this whole thing makes no sense. It's like totally, every part of it is hypocritical. The hairstyles thing might be the worst part because dudes are out there every day crying about beards. Just cry, like, I need a beard. I want a beard. I can't have a beard. It's not fair. The European military can have a beard. The Canadians can have a beard, but I can't have a beard. I want a beard. And then women go on there and they say they just want to have a hairstyle that doesn't jack their whole head up. And we're like, this is going to be the end of the United States of America and China is going to take over if we don't do something about it right away. Are you kidding? Like, is this really like how people think? And it's more alarming that people follow this dude and anything that he says, they take as the word of freaking God. Like, if Tucker Carlson says something, it is now the opinion of probably 30 million people out there. They tune in to Fox News and watch Tucker Carlson to literally find out what they think about something. Okay, and that's the end of the story. And if you watch the Tucker Carlson, who I watch his clips sometimes, I used to honestly think he wasn't that bad because he has a Tucker Carlson. Now to talk about Tucker Carlson's reporting just a little bit. In the past, I've always thought Tucker Carlson was somebody who asks the obvious questions, like the questions that beg to be asked, so to speak. And I always I like that actually. He's gone but then if you watch his stuff long enough, you'll see that he will literally in the same story switch his entire opinion on something or do something and then say he just didn't do it for the sake of being the most inflammatory news person online. And he literally just reads a script off of a teleprompter, by the way. I'm sure people are writing this stuff for him. In fact, I remember a story earlier this year of one of the writers for the Tucker Carlson show being arrested because he was in like a chat room saying some super racist stuff or whatever, and they were calling Tucker Carlson to like stand down. He said he was going to take a leave of absence, but he didn't or something like that. So, okay, so all of this stuff happens, and I totally think it's all stupid. I think everything Tucker Carlson said is some of the stupidest shit that I've ever heard anybody say about the military. Everything about it is wrong, and I've spoken my piece a little bit about why. Now, because I actually care about giving you guys the entire story, and I'm not someone who only says things that back up my own opinion on things because I want all the information. Have you seen his rebuttal? He has a rebuttal, and I have that for you guys too. And I think it's fair that we take a look at it. So let's see if Tucker Carlson can go and explain himself a little bit. Why did he make these comments? What is his defense?
Joe Biden was elected as a moderate who is going to stay the course, return this country to normalcy. It turns out Biden is changing the United States faster than any president ever has in American history. Our job on this show is to pay attention to exactly how Joe Biden is changing it. The New York Times isn't going to tell you. We think you have a right to know. Now, not every change that Joe Biden makes will matter over time. Despite all the huffing and puffing, a lot of things that presidents do are quickly forgotten. Some of the things Joe Biden promises won't happen. Others are just symbolic ring kissing designed to appease the interest groups that got him elected. But some of Biden's changes are very real, and they matter very much. Nothing matters more than what Joe Biden does to our U.S. military. Our military is the last functional institution of any size in this country. It's the last institution most people trust and respect. It is by far the most important. A weak military means no country. Period. So on Monday, when we saw Joe Biden pledge to bring a, quote, intensity of purpose and mission to really change the culture and habits of the U.S. military, we paid attention to it. Here's what Biden said.
Some of it's relatively straightforward work, where we're making good progress designing body armor that fits women properly, tailoring combat uniforms for women, creating maternity flight suits, updating requirements for their hairstyles.
Creating maternity flight suits. Maybe those suits have been around for a while. We'd never heard of them. But here was the President of the United States promoting them.
By the way, maternity flight suits or maternity uniforms have been around for a long time. The military does have specific maternity uniforms. That is nothing new. You can go buy them at the exchange. I guess I'll just speak for the Navy. You can go buy Navy maternity uniforms at the exchange. There are uniform regulations for women who are pregnant, with exceptions to shoes, pants, shirts, blouses, everything. So there's one thing that's just totally misleading. And now there's going to be all these people walking around out there going, the military doesn't have maternity uniforms. They're just trying to make this stuff up right now because they're blah, 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 blah. Tucker Carlson is my father.
At a press conference. And that phrase stuck out, not because we have some hateful bias against pregnant women flying military jets. We're pro-pregnancy, as we often say. We're also open-minded. Maybe pregnant women make the best pilots. The Department of Defense measures everything, so there's got to be extensive research on this question. If the Pentagon can show that pregnant pilots are the best, we will be the first to demand an entire Air Force of pregnant pilots. The problem is we're pretty confident that Joe Biden hasn't asked to see those numbers. We'd bet money that Joe Biden never even thought to ask. The rest of us depend on the U.S. military to protect our families and protect the country itself. But Joe Biden doesn't see it that way. Finding the most effective military pilots or infantry officers or SEAL teams is not his priority. It's not even close to his priority. Identity politics is Joe Biden's priority. It's all that matters. You see this attitude throughout the U.S. government as well as in the corporate world. Key positions filled on the basis of physical appearance without any reference to ability or experience.
So one of the key problems with this argument that he's making right now is the implication is that if you see a woman in a job, the first thing you think that, and you'd be right to think, is that she got there because of her gender alone and not because she's the best pilot. Like that if you see a woman pilot, she now has to prove to you that she is a good pilot when you would see, but if you see any man, you just assume that that person is qualified because they're a man. This is a super flawed argument, and I think it's really stupid of him to say. It's obviously, he's got this bias that he's trying to, appeal to his audience with. But what he's saying basically is, if you see a woman in a leadership position in the military, the assumption should be that she got there because of her gender unless she proves to you otherwise, but you would never have any assumptions about any man you see in any position. So I think that's something interesting to point out there.
Now, you can get by with that if you're Citibank, which now cares more about wokeness than about banking. They can explain the results to their shareholders 10 years from now. But it is not fine if your only job is to protect the United States from people who want to kill the rest of us. That is the worst kind of dereliction of duty. Yet it's happening right now on an enormous scale. Just this week, the Biden administration announced that the Pentagon will pay for gender reassignment surgery for active duty personnel. How do sex changes in the military make this country safer? That's not a trick question. It's not another volley in the culture war. It's the only question that matters, literally the only question that matters. But no one bothered to ask it, probably because no one can remember why the U.S. military exists. Here's a reminder. The U.S. military exists to fight and win wars.
Also, by the way, to be clear, Tucker Carlson was never in the military. He never, worked with the military. I think he's been like a commentator for the majority of his adult life. He goes way back on different news organizations, and he's been a kind of a pundit for, I think that's what his whole career has been, just to clear that up. And let's we're not going to do this whole story here, but let's just go into it a little bit more because I breezed through it earlier, and it kind of trails off into a different sort of story here in a little bit. But we'll just get to like the last little bit of his explaining why he thinks he stands by his comments, and then we'll close out the show with some final thoughts on this.
That's its only purpose. The U.S. military is not an NGO. It is not a vehicle for achieving equity. It's not a social experiment. It's definitely not an employment agency. Nobody has a God-given right to work in the military. No one does, and that includes all of us. If you ever hear this show whine that Delta Force is discriminating against paunchy 51-year-old cable news hosts, you'll know that we have lost the thread, because it's not about us. It's about the country. Making people feel valued and included is a good thing. It is not the point of the U.S. military. It cannot be the point of the U.S. military, or else we're done. Now, that used to be obvious. The military was the purest meritocracy that we had.
Okay, so now he goes in and he kind of trails off here at this point. So that's the end of him kind of explaining that the comments he made the other day were somehow correct or justified or whatever it is. No big deal. I want to thank you guys in the comments for clearing up that the Army does have maternity combat uniforms, maternity uniforms in the Army. Maternity flight suits. I don't know if I've ever seen maternity flight suits, but it would make total sense to have them. It's not like women get pregnant and then just stop coming to work day one or get light duty chits or something like that. A lot of women work when they're pregnant for as long as they possibly can, and that's what they want to do. In the military, I'm talking about. And just because if we've seen women who get pregnant to get out of a deployment or get pregnant because they want to go on limited duty or whatever, because those things do exist. I've seen them with my own eyes. That's not any reason to think that every woman is somehow this person, this like stereotype, because then you would just be able to say that any dude who's done something bad speaks for the entire military, which we just don't do. We just don't do that for men the same way that we do that for women, and that's kind of what I'm saying here. It is like it hurts my head to think that the most viewed news anchor on TV is out there saying that if a woman is in a job in the military, that somehow that could only be true because of progressive gender equality lawmaking and partisan issues. Like, it hurts my brain and my heart to see that stuff. That's probably what my main point is on this whole thing, is what Tucker Carlson did on his show the other day that has made this ripple effect throughout the world. Somebody said Mill Twitter was blowing up. It just demonstrates exactly what people are saying the problem is. He just did all the work for women in the military who were saying that this is how they're being treated, because the most influential conservative news anchor on television, on mainstream television, just did the thing that they're saying keeps getting done to them and nobody believes. Like, what more has to be done? Do you guys, let me know in the comments if you guys see what I see here or if I got it totally wrong. What's up, guys? Thanks for watching that clip from our live show. We're live right here on YouTube, Sunday through Thursday, 1800 Pacific Standard Time. If you want, come on by, join the chat. I'd love to hear from you. If you like that video and you want to see more, consider checking out this video right here or subscribing to the channel with this button right here. I look forward to talking to you really soon. I'm out for now.